Hello everyone, I'm Marco Flagg, CEO of Desert Star Systems. In this presentation, which is about half slides and half video, I want to talk about the true importance of training, experience, and both in workflow optimizations, both for the evaluation of ropeless systems as well as Fisher's final success with such systems. Now, in the press, such as this in this National Fisherman article, we often hear quite critical statements about Ropeless, in particular from representatives of some of the commercial fishing operations. Observations such as that release mechanism failed 20% of the time, gear had to be abandoned, the process is unmanageably slow, gear prone to be lost at sea, and conclusions that marine mammal interactions with fishing gear would actually go up rather than down, and it would be near impossible to make a profit. But there's also this strange contrast. On one hand, these statements by the associations or in these newspaper articles. And then on the other hand, when I go out and actually work with our ropeless customers, I find that they have quite significant gains in productivity. Fisher Steve Ross Kelly, for example, one of my favorites due to his remarkable story, has saved a very substantial amount of time at sea, now operating ropeless versus the static gear before. His gear loss has gone down substantially, and overall he went from number 20 to number 2 in the state of New South Wales by landing. So obviously his productivity with ropeless is very high. Let's take a look at pop-up fails versus experience as we have encountered it at Desert Star. On the left, you see results for sea trials here of the Acadian Crabbing Association and the Cold Water Lobster Association. And as you can see with ACA, they did see a pop-up fail rate in excess of 20%. As the National Fisherman article stated, but also they started counting at the very beginning with their very first time submerging a bag, and so they had no prior experience. CWLA first went through a little bit of training before they started counting, and therefore experienced a lower pop-up fail rate. And then these green ones are pop-up fail rates that you see in commercial fishing. But even the lowest one here at 3%, if every 30th time you submerge your gear, you don't get it back, that would not really be viable. Yet, pop-up fail rate does not equal equipment loss, and we can see that in this graph, that the equipment loss rate in all cases is always much lower than the pop-up fail rate is. When we now look at sort of annual gear loss rates for where we have data available, here Ross Kelly is at 2% in the year 2018, where I just reviewed his logbooks. And for Wesley, I have a long-term average over 8 years coming in at 3.5% or so. Clearly a lot lower, what is sort of traditionally considered the rule of thumb for static buoy fishing at around 10%. How can this be explained? Actually, there's several reasons for it. It starts out with ropeless gear just not being subject to the surface risks that cause so much gear loss, boat strikes, entanglement, vandalism, poaching. Then also submerged gear, you can localize it through its acoustic ranging function or on the depth sounder, so you know if it's still there. Unlike traditional gear, once the buoy is gone, it's hard to determine if it's even worth searching for it. Finally, you have a precision location, and grappling skills are generally developed by ropeless fishers, and these translate to very high recovery rates. And now we go on to that the value of these releases also increases the economic incentive for recovery. And overall, as you can see, you are in a very good situation here. So if you look at all sorts of evaluations, maybe this is a researcher evaluating some skis. Is this situation indicative of a problem with the ski or perhaps the experience of the skier? This boat up here, did that happen because the boat is faulty or the skipper doesn't have enough experience? And here some actual work from Kim Sawicki in her evaluations, a trainee just rigged the release mechanism wrong, causing a pop-up fail. In fact, this correlation between experience and success of Ropeless has been also shown in the work by Kim Sawicki. Here you can see learners have a much lower rate of rope buoy success than the higher levels of skills indicated here. For our equipment, Kim informed me of what she experienced so far. Since 2019, she has done 205 releases with our gear. There were 17 pop-up fails, that's 4.8%, but 15 of these 17s were from learning level individuals who just rigged the bags incorrectly. Then there was a couple of other causes, but there wasn't actually a failure of the release mechanism itself. Here we are going fishing with Steve Ross-Kelly and his crew, just so you can see a truly optimized fishing operation. A trap just went in, and now they're handing in their rather big bag because they're in very deep water here, 100 fathoms, making sure there's no snag in the rope connecting this bag to the trap, and there it's going down. All right, next we're moving on to a recovery phase. He's operating in individual release mode, not broadcast mode, which is broadcast mode is more efficient, but limited to lower currents. So he's ranging to the release, making sure he's right on top of it. He wants to know exactly where it pops up. And now he got an acknowledge that it's on its way up, and it's going to come up ahead of the boat and generally slightly to port to make it very quick for him to hook those buoys, because once the slag is out of the bag, they might submerge again. So you want to be very efficient in your operation here. All right. There we have another look at the hooking operation. His son generally gets him on first try. All right. Now he's going to haul in the vertical rope here leading to the trap, and all the rope is going to get paid into this big bin here. Again, saves time, makes it very efficient. Here you saw a stack of release bags ready to go. You always want to have some of them ready, so you're not held up if you have a little bit of delay arming one. All right, bag's going to come up first. It's going to get unclipped. Very important to do that. If the clip there goes through the block, you might lose the empty bag. You can see this one is pretty fouled. It's probably been down there for months. He can have very long soak times, and therefore he has a pressure washer to wash them all off, make sure that he doesn't get barnacles growing on it that then foul up the release mechanism. Here you can see how he's refilling the bags. It's not done by hand. It's done with a fast hydraulic line hauler. It's a very fast process here. Out of the blue bag and into the bag, out of the blue bin and into the bag, and now here's rearming the bag, and then that bag just goes back into the inventory of already armed bags, and here they are now going again. So that's the whole procedure. He's saving a lot of time because he's going to get all his traps every single time he goes out to sea. Before that, it would oftentimes be that he'd go out to sea only to find that some of his buoys are just submerged. So here you see them servicing their own gear. So again, a very efficient operation. Conclusions. Number one, pop-up reliability does depend on the experience of the operator. Number two, submerged gear is safe gear and surface gear is at risk for the ropeless operator. Number three, ropeless operators can save a significant amount of time, such as through improved gear access and better gear security. And finally, it does take about 3 years to become proficient in operating ropeless gear. Thank you very much.